Hello and welcome to this edition of Political Capital here on Bloomberg TV India. This is the show where Delhi meets the Lal Street. India has been ruled by coalitions since 1989, and this election too is witnessing the arithmetic of coalition building being worked out. In the past few days, we have seen new alliances being forged, old ones being discarded. Also, the motley crew of 11 political parties appears to have come unstuck. The moot question now, will Narendra Modi, the man most polls are projecting to be the country's next Prime Minister, secure enough votes to get to that crucial 272 mark? Who could be the partners and possibles in the ride to Modi's mission 272? First up on the show, Saloni Shukla joins us with the alliances being worked out at this point of time.
Well, Vivek, in the last couple of weeks, we have seen a lot of marriages made and broken in the Indian political family. So let's begin with the state that is the shortcut to the Prime Minister's seat, that is Uttar Pradesh with 80 seats. Narendra Modi has his eyes set on the Prime Ministerial post, but hasn't made much of a breakthrough as far as alliances are concerned in Uttar Pradesh, except for a few small regional parties. Now, Congress party, on the other hand, has tied up with Ajit Singh's RLD, while Mayawati's Bahujan Samaj party is still toying with the idea of a pre-poll alliance with Congress. Third front members, Samajwadi Party and Left may share a few seats in UP as well. As far as Maharashtra is concerned, the biggest question right now is whether the Raj factor will play spoil sport. Days after Shiv Sena, RPI and BJP announced their alliance, Nitin Gadkari was seen warming up with Raj Thackeray and appealed to him not to field candidates against them, which hasn't gone down well with the Shiv Sena and Uddhav Thackeray. Let's turn our focus to Bihar now. After the BJP-JDU alliance went kaput, BJP joined forces with Ram Vilas Paswan's Lok Jan Shakti Party and Upendra Kushwaha's RLSP, putting him on a firm ground in the state that elects 40 Lok Sabha members. Congress, on the other hand, chose to stay away with Lalu Prasad Yadav's RJD after a lot of public appeal to Sonia Gandhi from Lalu himself. They have now sought an alliance. So the two important states to watch out for from the southern region are Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. After talks of merger with TRS fell midway, the Congress now seeking a pre-poll alliance with Chandrasekhar Rao TRS. BJP, on the other hand, is in talks with Chandrababu Naidu's TDP for a pre-poll alliance. A clear picture on Tamil Nadu's electoral alliance has emerged after BJP is in active talks with DMDK's Vijay Kant for a pre-poll alliance. BJP has already struck a deal with Vaiko's MDMK and PMK. Jayalalitha's AIADMK, after spurning the left, has decided to take on the elections alone. DMK has also roped in smaller parties like the MMK and the Muslim League. Karnataka has also thrown up interesting stories with B.S. Yedurappa back in the fray. BJP is looking at an alliance with KJP and BSR Congress. But political experts believe that much more than the two pre-poll alliances, the final numbers post the counting day on 16th May will hold the key. Back to you.
All right, joining me now on Political Capital, Praveen Chakravarti, founding trustee of India Spend, and Krishna Prasad, editor-in-chief of Outlook. Thank you, gentlemen, both of you, for joining me. Let me come to you first. Krishna Prasad, when we last spoke, you said something which has turned out to be rather prophetic, and I'm talking about Jayalalitha. We were talking about her, and you made the point, and just to quote you, you said she might swing completely on the other side. And that's exactly what seems to have happened, that alliance, CPI, CPM is all gone. What are you making of that particular move, and how does that impact a possibility of her actually ending up aligning with Modi? Again, something that you did not rule off.
You know, I think none of us can claim to be foreseeing anything that's going to happen. I think we've got to be a little more modest in this business. But what we can certainly see from this distance is that most of the political parties are really going into this election blindfolded. You know, they don't really know what next step they're going to take. I think that's the one clear signal that seems to come out of every alliance that is being formed and every alliance that is being unformed. I think the fact is that everybody is going into this very, very blindfolded. I mean, everyone is essentially approaching it one step at a time. You know, it did not seem, you know, very logical that Jayalalitha would on the one hand tie up with the left on the one hand in the state and then go along with Narendra Modi in the center. So it was was quite clear that it was not going to stay for a long period of time. But what you are seeing, I think, is a couple of things which are very, very clear. I think parties like the BJP are looking for atmospherics, which means that they're tying up with parties like Ramvilas Paswan's, although that party is really nothing of a party, frankly, in Bihar. It's basically about 2 seats out of 7 that they've been given that the Paswan party stands a chance. So it's really about atmospherics on the one hand. On the other hand, it's also about the BJP kind of trying to run its writ at this point of time. The BJP, from the signals we are getting from Nagpur and from Delhi, is that the BJP is very clear on wanting pre-poll allies rather than post-poll allies, which is why you're seeing this flurry of alliances that the BJP is forming with Paswan's party, with Vijay Kant's party, and so on and so forth, or even Vaiko's party. What you're also seeing is the foreclosing of some kind of future options, if you might use a stock market word, which is that clearly if NDA is going to be formed with Vaiko and Vijay Kant, will Jayalalitha want to be a part of it? I'm not very sure. What you're seeing in state after state, whether it's Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, UP or Bihar, what you're seeing is that there are mutually cancelling alliance possibilities, which means if SP ties up with somebody, BSP won't be part of the same alliance. If TMC ties up with somebody, left is not going to be part of the same alliance. If TRS ties up with somebody, it's very unlikely YSR or TDP will be part of the same alliance, and so on and so forth. So you're seeing 2-3 things. One is atmospherics, which is the perception being built of a headwind for Modi. What you're also seeing is this kind of mutually cancelling options, and most importantly, what you're seeing is that the Congress, which should not be ruled out from this game, the Congress seems to be getting more and more toxic for most allies, which means what? Which means that the DMK has second thoughts on allying with the Congress, which means that TRS party has second thoughts of being part of the alliance, which means that a whole lot of people are kind of reasonably sure of not being part of the Congress, which seems to be some kind of damaged goods at this junction. So net, I think it's too early to say. Of course, we are in the last phase of the elections, but it's too early to say. But it's very clear that parties are essentially aiming for some kind of perception, and more importantly, trying to stitch up some kind of possibilities so that the alliance partners do not go the other way. But that said, nothing is for sure at this point of time. I think the bets are still on the table.
Praveen, you wrote a very fascinating piece which was headlined "The Mathematics of the Modi Wave." You backed it with data, and you did talk about the fact in that piece about the importance of alliances for him, failing which he's not going to hit that 272 mark. Take us through a bit of your findings and observations.
Sure. I think to start with, and taking off from what your other panelists talked about, and I actually make a mention of that in this piece. I, contrary to what most people believe, I don't think Indian elections are some grand spectacle of drama and emotion devoid of complete logic and math. I think there is an important point that the other panelists actually did not talk about, which is how many of these states face either simultaneous elections in their states or have an election to face in the next 12 to 18 months. That's an important factor to consider. Now, on the math itself, and again, all I am saying is there is data that is telling us something. We could ridicule some of that data, saying past data does not mean anything, but it provides a starting point for understanding a lot of these things. What does data say? The first thing, if you look at it, 6 states account for more seats in the Lok Sabha than the rest of the country put together. 18 states account for 95% of all seats in the Lok Sabha. Out of these 18 states, 8 states are direct bipolar contests, which is the Congress versus the BJP. The remaining are all multi-cornered contests. Out of these 8 may seem like a large number, but they only account for less than 25, 26% of all seats. So while television rhetoric and media rhetoric may want it to seem like a presidential form or a two-party fight, it's actually not. It was very evident from day one that Indian elections are about alliances. People do not vote directly for a government at the center. People vote for their state seats first, and which then goes on to form a government at the center. So if you take the top 6, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Bengal, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Bihar, all of them are alliance states. And these account for more Lok Sabha seats than the rest of the country, like I said. So I don't know why it is so much of a surprise that there is this sudden need for alliances. And again, the point that I make in my article is, when the BJP decided to anoint Mr. Modi as its prime ministerial candidate, clearly there was a trade-off that they had to evaluate, which is the potential risk of falling alliance partners because of the divisive nature of Mr. Modi's personality, versus his popularity being able to overcome and compensate for that loss of alliances. What is this trade-off? And I argue in that piece, for this trade-off to pay off, the BJP has to repeat its best performance in every one of these 18 states, whichever year they may have won it. For example, in Uttar Pradesh, they had their best year, for the Kalyan Singh government. Or in Bihar, it may have been 1999 when they were in partnership with Nitish Kumar. So they have to repeat each of their best performances in each of these 18 states and get 5% more seats, not vote share, 5% more seats for this Modi wave to actually pay off. If you recall, they had actually launched an initiative called Mission 272, which was very clear, which said, listen, we want to go and try for a majority of our own. So can they? Now, and that's why I start my piece saying, we do hear comments from the BJP about how this election is going to be about chemistry and not mathematics, which means it's about alliances, which means it's about regional party pre-poll alliances. So that was really the broad theme of the piece.
Let me come back to you on that, Krishna Prasad. While there are polls, and of course we can always keep discussing whether we should go by those polls, especially with certain developments recently, but the point is, what is your own sense? Does he have it in him to get that 5%, which is better than the best ever across all these states that Praveen is talking about?
I think the evidence on the ground seems to suggest very clearly, as Mr. Chakravarti rightly said, that it's going to be an uphill task. There's no question about that. But at the same time, I think we need to consider the possibility simply because this seems to be, to me at least personally speaking, a quite unique election in the sense that you're seeing imponderables of a kind you never saw ever before. And by which I mean to say that there are factors at play which we've never seen at play before. I understand all this thing about, bipolar states and multi-party states and so on and so forth. But I think in this election, you're seeing a couple of very clear indications of factors which we've not seen before. One of them, to me, clearly is the RSS. I think not too many of us have spent enough time looking at what the RSS is actually doing to push Modi and to give Modi that decisive edge. I think that's a thing to keep in mind, simply because the BJP, for whatever noise it makes in Delhi, the fact is that the BJP is finding it very, very difficult to find the right kind of candidates in some places, especially in UP and Bihar, and more particularly in Karnataka and in Haryana. It's even finding it very difficult to find the right kind of allies. So the fact is that the RSS seems to have jumped into the picture and turned this election on the surface at least into an election where they're looking at Modi for sure. The RSS seems to have put all its eggs in Modi's basket, so that's imponderable one. Imponderable two is that for the first time you have an OBC leader of this stature actually trying to grab the national stage. You've never had that scene before. It's largely been with the upper caste, it's largely been with the with the usual suspects. But to see an OBC figure with this kind of appeal is quite something which has not been tested before. Thirdly, I think we underestimate the value of communications and the change that it's undergone since 2004. You know, we all would like to say that this election is very different from the previous one, but for sure to me it seems as if the media in this election, mobile phones in this election are going to play a far more significant role in the party and the candidate establishing direct contact with the voter. It's a totally imponderable thing. You know, one of my correspondents has been in UP in the last few days, and she tells me that there are villages in India's largest state which still do not have electricity, which means what? That they are not being able to receive the television images that Modi and his team have been putting forth. But that said, the fact is that the mobile phone is still in their hands, so they may well be receiving those messages.
Welcome back. You're watching Political Capital. We're in conversation with Praveen Chakravarti of India Spend and Krishna Prasad, the editor-in-chief of Outlook. Praveen, let me take you a little more deeper into the data that you looked at. Are there any states among those 18 that you talked of which could be perhaps game-changing states as far as BJP and Narendra Modi are concerned? For example, we've seen him going very, very flat out as far as Northeast is concerned, which has a collective as a unit 24 seats. Karnataka, for example, the jury is still out, while in the rest of the South, nobody is really giving him much of a chance. Are there some easy pickings out there or low-hanging fruits out there, according to your data, which could actually spin things around in his favor?
I actually think the state that could potentially call this election is Tamil Nadu. And that it goes back to another piece that I had written in Business Standard in January that was titled The Mathematics of Jayalalitha's Prime Ministerial Ambitions. It's only because Tamil Nadu has this very unique tendency to actually be a winner-takes-all state. And in that sense, with 39, and if you include Puducherry, which is 40, which is one seat, so it then becomes a winner-takes-all kind of a state. And if a winner even gets 30, it's very likely that the winner in Tamil Nadu could be the third largest single party after the two major national parties. So a Tamil Nadu alliance actually as per the data that I have, and I'm, as looking at the data, could have actually taken BJP past the winning post if they repeated their best performance in all the other states. Having said that, so now since it's evident that that is not available, and also I think the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister's moves are all entirely logical if we just look at past data and trends, then I think the state that does become a little bit more important is Karnataka. Karnataka, the jury is still out. It is a bipolar state in some sense, and there is a potential Modi impact that could actually swing vote share and hence seat share.
Okay, let me come to Krishna Prasad, who's with me. Krishna, Praveen was talking about Tamil Nadu being a very crucial state. I want to ask you even about Maharashtra, because in the recent past we've seen some cracks out there between BJP and Shiv Sena. There were some other panelists the other day who were saying that while there is an anti-incumbency there in Maharashtra, but the BJP Sena combined may not be able to get as much as it would have been able to potentially get. How are you reading the Maharashtra scenario at this point of time?
You know, we can all read this the way it suits us, but the simple point is that there are no easy pickings, there are no easy chances in this election for either alliance, especially for Modi. You know, the reason you're seeing Ms. Mayawati, Mulayam Singh Yadav, Mamta Banerjee, Jayalalitha, etc. put so much into this election is because of the reasons Mr. Chakravarti is giving out to you, which is that the BJP's own chances of making it on its own are quite quite really slim, if not slim, quite a difficult task. So what you're seeing is therefore a bit of posturing on all sides. It could be from the main alliance partner or it could be from the allies. So therefore what you're seeing in Maharashtra is one evidence of that. One sense that we are hearing from the ground in Maharashtra is that this is the signal that the BJP wants to send to its potential allies, that it will play this game by its rule. You know, you see, it's one thing to say that Modi and Mission 272 and so on and so forth, but presuming that he comes to power, he needs to be able to perform. And if he were to come to power with a set of allies who are going to keep hobbling him, then it's going to be a bit of a big problem in terms of perception vis-a-vis Modi. So the reason you're seeing all these theatrics happen in states like Maharashtra is because the BJP wants to spell out the rules before the game starts. You know, that's why you're also seeing Mr. Modi make some very strange noises where he goes to Patna and goes to Calcutta and says that the third front or Sabka Vinash Hoga, which means he talks of, he basically, when he talks of Sabka Vinash in UP, he's essentially talking of the Samajwadi Party, the BSP and the Congress being wiped out. What does that mean? Is he really foreclosing his options with at least two of those three parties? So the fact is that everybody is in a posturing game at this point of time. And again, when you're looking at Tamil Nadu, you know, it's very clear, as Mr. Chakravarti said, that it's going to be a key state. But that's very easy to say at this point because the opinion polls, for all that they are, still seem to give the DMK a bit of a chance. We don't know many things at this point of time. The allies are not very sure. But what you're seeing is very clear posturing, a whole lot of muscle flexing on both the part of the allies and the potential partners.
Praveen, are markets, therefore, according to you, running way too ahead, almost kissing 22,000? And also, I want you to wear your economist hat and answer this question. In many ways, if you've seen, he's trying to reorient himself, isn't it, Narendra Modi? For one, he's not talking Hindutva, he's talking economy. He believes this is an economy election. And more recently, we heard him even invoking Mahatma Gandhi. How are you reading these developments or this change of approach, so to speak, as far as Narendra Modi is concerned?
Vivek, staying true to my data journalist avatar, I do not have an opinion on any of the comments or the rhetoric or, the media headlines. What I can say is what the data tells me, and I did get many calls from investors, probably because of my past life, after they read both my pieces. For the first one, I thought they found it a lot more alarming, which was the Jayalalitha's prime ministerial ambitions as being entirely logical, and this one about how under the Modi wave really has to actually beat 25 years of history. It does seem like to me that there is a lot of bet on Mr. Modi forming the government at the center, and that seemed to stem from the argument that I made in the piece, which said if they repeat the best performance, then they could get 230, and the entire logic then seems to be that once you're past that, then you can attract other allies. Again, that is in my view conjecture. So as I told some of the investors that called me, I said, if I just purely look at data and how states have voted historically, then looks like we're looking at a third front government. I accept all the other admonishments that I usually get as a data journalist. This time it's different. Past does not predict the future. Data does not reflect sentiment, and all of those things. Having said all of that, all I can say is this is what data says, and I also believe a large country of 700, 800 million voters do not dramatically change their voting preferences when they're given a chance once in 5 years. Yes, they change gradually. It's very similar to that debate about first-time voters. We didn't suddenly become young as a country mathematically. So in the absence of external shocks, we will only get, we will only age in a certain progression. And it's very similar to voting preferences. And that's why past data becomes very, very important in my view.
Right. Right. Quick final comment, Krishna, from you. Would you tell the stock markets, hold your horses? It's not over and done yet.
Oh, without a shadow of doubt. I have no doubts about that. I mean, I've always found the stock markets quite illogical in the way they have responded to most opinion polls on the elections. But I would always say that you need to be a little more cautious than this. I mean, that doesn't mean that the stock market shouldn't have fun. But I think you're a little better off, you know, really looking for tomorrow rather than just this evening.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Run out of time. We'll look forward to talking to you both again. Thank you very much for joining me.